What is going on, everybody? I hope all of you had a tremendous weekend. Hopefully, it was a lot better than my weekend because unfortunately, I got snowed in all weekend. Yeah, Mother Nature did not take a liking to the area that I live in. And to any of you who have never experienced snow at all, just let me tell you, you're not missing anything. Just be glad you don't have to experience it. It is basically hell. It basically ruins everything. But now that we got that out of the way, I am here today to discuss my thoughts on the Order 1886. I finally beat the Order 1886 yesterday afternoon, and I'm here to give you my overall thoughts on the game. And how I'm going to do this is I'm going to break everything up into separate categories, give you my thoughts on them, and then give you my final thoughts at the end. So, hopefully you enjoy this. Alright, let's get the obvious out of the way, shall we? The graphics of this game. Oh my freaking god. The graphics of this game are outstanding. They are amazing. They are some of the best graphics I have ever seen in not just console games, any game. These are probably the best I have ever seen. There were lots of times when I was playing this game and I would just sit there and just pan the camera to the surrounding environment and just be amazed at how awesome everything looked. The attention to detail in this game is amazing. And usually, I think this is the best example of putting so much little detail in every single area of a game. Usually, Rockstar with Grand Theft Auto and Max Payne 3 was known for this. I would be amazed at how much detail was in those games. The Order 1886 is right up there, and in some cases it's even better in my opinion. It was just amazing how great the game looked. I mean, I kind of figured it would look great, but I didn't think it'd be this good. I really didn't. This was amazing. And it's not just that. The sound is tremendous. And they nailed the look in the time period that this game is set in. When I was playing this game, I felt like I was in 19th century London. They nailed it when it comes to setting, atmosphere, and presentation. They nailed it. And I know a lot of people have complained about how dull it looks, how they use similar colors for everything, but you have to look at it like this. 19th century London actually looked like this. It was very smog infested. I mean, this was the beginning of the industrial age. It was very smog infested. London around this time was actually going through a lot of issues in regards to health, pollution, and just all that very, very nasty stuff. And it affected everything. And that's what the Order 1886 shows. And I'm not going to call that a negative. I mean, I like a game that has a lot of colors. That's very colorful. But I'm more about also being historically accurate. And Order 1886 nailed it, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to how this game is presented and how this game is looked. They nailed it, in my opinion. They freaking nailed it. And in my opinion, other developers should take note in this category on how to present your game. They nailed it, in my opinion. Alright, let's talk about the gameplay of this game. I thought the gameplay of this game was actually really solid. The third-person shooting in this game is really, really good. I would put it up there as some of the best third-person shooting I've ever played in any game. And another thing I really liked about this is I love the gun selection in this game. You had a really good variety of different weapons to choose from. I mean, you had pistols, you had shotguns, you had assault rifles, you had sniper rifles, you had these cool science weapons, which I will not spoil what they are, but they're actually really cool and really fun to use. The only real thing that I would probably improve on the gameplay or suggest is I probably would have added a dodge mechanic or a way to roll. I mean, there is a way to roll in the game, but the only time you can roll is if somebody throws a grenade at you. When someone throws a grenade at you, the grenade indicator comes up, and you hit the X button and you roll out of the way. But there's no designated command to roll. It's not like in Gears of War where you can double tap the A button and you roll, and you can roll front to back, left to right, and you do that to dodge things. And you can do that at your will in that game. And there's other games too that do it, like Uncharted. This game doesn't have that, unfortunately, and a lot of times I wanted to roll out of the way, and I couldn't. The only thing you can really do in this game is take cover. That's really the only defense you have against enemy gunfire, is you just take cover. And as far as the cover mechanic goes, I think it's pretty good. It's not the best cover mechanic, but a lot of times it felt like sometimes my character would get out of cover randomly, which was kind of weird. And there were a lot of times where it would make me go into cover without actually going into cover. Like if you actually lean against the surface, it will actually put you into the cover automatically without you actually wanting to get into cover. And sometimes that can be a hindrance because since there's no roll mechanic or a way to dodge anything, you're trying to get away from enemy gunfire. I mean, the only thing you can do is sprint into cover. But when you're trying to do that and you accidentally lean up against the wall, it puts you into cover and you're sitting there and you're getting your body riddled with bullets. Not very fun. Especially when you have it on a harder difficulty. Makes for some very frustrating moments. Now, another thing I like to talk about the gameplay is the QTEs. And everybody was dreading the QTEs because everybody, for the most part, hates QTEs. And you know what? I don't care for QTEs that much. I don't care for QTEs that much. I don't really see what the point of them is. And I think some games really get dragged down when the whole game is littered with QTEs. Looking at you, some of the Resident Evil games. But this game, it does have QTEs. And there are quite a few QTEs in this game. But I think they did QTEs very well. In my opinion, if you're going to put QTEs in a game, you have to make them... Okay, what's the word here? What's the word I want to use? I guess the word I want to use is easy. You want to make them so that they're not sprung at you right at that moment. And then unless you're like, you know what to do, you know what button to hit, unless you don't hit it right that moment, then you'll fail. That's not the right way to do QTEs. The right way to do QTEs is to have the button prompt pop up and at least give the player some type of opportunity to hit that button prompt. And not only that, maybe make it an easy button prompt. Like some games like Resident Evil 6 would have you hit 2 buttons at once if you played on the harder difficulties. Whereas, make it 1 button. And I think this game actually did QTEs well. And the whole game is not littered with QTEs. I know some people have said that about this game, that the game is QTEs from start to finish. That's not true. That is not true. I'm here to tell you this. There are QTEs in the game. There are quite a bit of them, but the whole game is not littered with them. It's not. And they aren't that big of a deal. And this is coming from someone who doesn't like QTEs. I don't like them. And they didn't bother me in this game. So that should tell you something. That should tell you something. So, all in all, I thought the gameplay was really solid in this game. Unfortunately, and this is a negative about the game, there wasn't enough of it. There was not enough gameplay in this game. I when I was playing this game, and when you actually get into gunfights, it's a lot of fun because the hit detection feels right, the guns sound cool, the gunfights are just really well done. There just wasn't really enough of them in this game. Now, I'm not bagging on the game for using a lot of cutscenes. That's not what I'm saying this for, but I think they probably could have used some more gun gameplay sections that involved combat. I think they could have used more of that, because I had a ton of fun when I was playing those sections. That's not to say that I hated the cutscenes or anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to say. I just think it could have used more of this very, very solid gameplay. Alrighty, now I want to briefly discuss the story in this game, and I will not be giving any spoilers at all, so do not fear, do not fret about being spoiled on any part of the story. I just want to talk about how the actual story was presented and how I felt about it. Okay, so I actually liked this story. I really did. There was no point during my playthrough of this game that I felt that the story had padding, that I felt that they were dragging something too long. And I'll be honest, I was hooked. I really wanted to know what was going to happen next in this story. And I remember a lot of people and developers basically saying how they want to make this game feel like have more of a cinematic feel. And when it comes to that, I think they nailed it, because there were a lot of times, and this kind of plays into the graphics bit too, there were a lot of times when I was playing this game and I would sit there and be like, it feels like I'm watching a movie. It feels like I'm watching a movie, and you know what? It's actually a pretty good movie. A lot better than movies that are currently out in theaters at this moment. Except that you actually get to play in this, too. It's really cool. And I thought the story was pretty well done. There was actually quite a bit of plot twists in this game that really, really got me. I'll be honest. And like I said, I'm not going to spoil it for any of you who have not played it yet. But I'm sure you guys who have played it already, you know what I'm talking about. That big plot twist right in the middle of the game. That was really well done, because I didn't expect the story to go in that direction. And it really made me want to find out what happens next. Now, let's get into the problem, or one of the main problems people have with this game, and that's the ending. A lot of people hate this ending. A lot of people hate this ending because to them, they felt that nothing is explained. They don't know what's going on. There are a lot of plot holes. And the ending was clear sequel bait to a lot of people. And you know what? That's partially true. The ending of this game is sequel bait. They ended this game with clear intentions that they are going to continue the story with a sequel. And a lot of people don't like when games do that. However, in my case, I was fine with that, because I want to see this game have a sequel. I want to see a sequel to this game. And I want to find out what happens next in the story. And I'll be honest, I don't really see what's wrong with that. I mean, if you enjoyed the game and you want to see a sequel to this game, but you don't want to give the entire story away or close certain plot areas, I don't see what the big deal was with the ending. And once again, without going into any spoilers, a lot of people, if they paid attention to the dialogue and they actually found some of the collectibles, because this game has quite a bit of collectibles, then you would know some of the outcomes of some of the things that happened in the game, and you would know the reasoning behind some of these characters' actions if you would pay attention. But see, that's the problem with some gamers out there. They don't pay attention. Because a lot of people go into games with a negative attitude, and they're going to overlook certain things, and then they're going to complain about it at the end. Because it wasn't completely put out there for them in picture book form. I mean, I understood what was going on. I understood the reasoning behind how certain characters were acting later in the story and what happened with certain characters. I understood what was going on. Now, I didn't understand everything, but you know what? That's up to the sequel. And once again, I don't see the big deal because movies do it too. So if they can do it, and it's not a big deal, I mean, I'll give you an example. Some of the Lord of the Rings movies have done this very same thing, and I don't remember anybody really complaining about that. I mean, I understand this is a game, but movies and games share similarities. So, but there's one thing I would like to complain about with this game. It was probably my main gripe, and it kind of goes into the whole developers wanted to make this more cinematic. I freaking hated the black bars that are on the screen. Yes, that's right. If any of you have not seen this game yet, this game is in widescreen the entire time. It's like The Evil Within. The Evil Within had the same thing, and it really irked me about that in that game. And it irked me about this game as well. Actually, more so in this game, because I hated the fact that this game's beautiful environments with so much detail, it gets cut off when you pan the camera by these stupid black bars. Now, if you want to put these black bars up during the cutscenes, I don't see the problem with that. I don't see the problem with that at all. But don't put them up during the gameplay. I don't see why they had to be there during the gameplay, but they were, and it really, really irked me. And you know what? This actually hurts people with smaller televisions, because the smaller the television you have, the smaller the game's going to look. I mean, there are people with 55-inch TVs. I have a 40-inch TV. So the game, for me, looked a hell of a lot smaller than someone who has a 55-inch TV. Not just because of the size of the televisions, it's because they squished the game because of these black bars. And there are people with 32-inch televisions and below. The game's going to look really small on there. So I think adding them in was really unnecessary. If they let them in during the cutscenes, it wouldn't have been a big deal because it's cutscenes, you're not actually playing. But these black bars really hindered the gameplay when you're playing the game, because certain things get cut off screen, whether you're looking at the environments or whether you're fighting enemies. Certain things get cut off because of these black bars, and to me, they were unnecessary, and I hope they don't return to the sequel in this game. I really hope they don't return. Alright, my final thoughts on this game. All I can really say is, despite this game's shortcomings, I dare say, and I'm not saying this being a fanboy, because I'm not a fanboy for this game, but I think this needs to be said. Despite its shortcomings, this game, in some areas, I would probably classify as a masterpiece. Because there are certain areas of this game that Ready at Dawn just nailed it. They just nailed it perfectly. And I would hope other developers look at this game and try to take what Ready at Dawn did and apply it to their games, because they really nailed it in certain areas of this game. They really nailed it. And another thing I'd like to point out is, I mentioned in my previous video about talking about this game that I would come on here and say, and I would apologize if the game was 5 hours or less. I finished my first playthrough of this game, and I'm not joking. I would probably say in the 9-hour range. Because you got to keep in mind, I put it on a harder difficulty. I try to collect every collectible. I was so caught up in the environments that I was just wandering around looking at everything. And so yeah, I would say my first playthrough was around the 9-hour mark. And you got to keep this in mind. Since I'm a trophy hunter, I have to go back into the game now and find the rest of the collectibles that I missed. And I don't know how the game works. I might have to play through the whole game again. So that adds another, and let's be generous here, I'll be nice, 7 to 8 hours. So that adds another 7 to 8 hours on top of my already 9 hours with the game. So to all the people out there that said this game was only 5 hours, the only way this game can be 5 hours is if you put it on easy and you run through the game and you don't look for anything. You don't stop to look at the environment. You don't stop to admire anything. You don't look for any collectibles. You just try to speedrun the game. That is the only way this game is 5 hours. So all those reviewers out there that were saying this game is 5 hours, they were being very, very dishonest. And I hate dishonesty. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. That is in most of gaming journalism. But if you're worried about this game being too short, don't fear, because it isn't. I think the length is perfect for this game. However, be that as it may, do I think this game is worth full price? $60 or more if you get the collector's editions. No, I do not. But this game has to be played by anybody who has a PS4. Because to me it is a groundbreaking achievement in some areas in gaming. So if you see this game eventually go on sale for maybe $30-$40, pick this game up. You will not regret it. Unless you hate third-person shooters and this type of genre, you will not regret picking this game up at a cheap price. But I do not recommend you paying full price for this game. Even though I really enjoyed this game, I can't recommend it at its $60 price tag. So, alright, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed my take on Order 1886. I don't really want to call this a review per se, because this is just my opinion on the game. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. What are your thoughts on the Order 1886? And I will see you all next time. Have a good one.